Frieren defeated the Demon King, survived battles that became legends and lived long enough to watch entire eras disappear. But the most powerful enemy in her story is not a demon. It is not another mage. It is not even death. Frieren's real enemy is the belief that there will always be more time. That belief is what makes the opening of Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, so devastating. Most fantasy stories begin when the heroes accept a grand mission. Frieren begins after the mission is over. The Demon King is dead. The kingdom is celebrating. Statues will be built. Songs will be written. Himmel, Heiter, Eisen, and Frieren have completed the adventure that will define the rest of their lives, except it does not define Frieren's life in the same way. And for Himmel, a 10-year journey is an enormous piece of his existence. It contains his closest friendships, his greatest victories, and perhaps the deepest love he will ever feel. For Frieren, who has already lived for more than 1,000 years, those same 10 years feel brief. Important perhaps, but still brief. When the party separates, she assumes that meeting again will be easy. 50 years does not sound like goodbye to an elf, it sounds like later. Then later finally arrives. Frieren returns for the promised meteor shower looking almost exactly the same. Himmel is an old man. The contrast is cruel because nobody betrayed the promise. Nobody forgot. Time simply charged each of them a different price. Frieren spent 50 years collecting magic, and Himmel spent 50 years becoming someone she would barely have time to know again. And when he dies, Frieren cries. Her tears are not only grief for Himmel, they are grief for the relationship that could have existed if she had understood the value of his limited time. She asks why she never tried to know him better, and that question becomes the real beginning of the story. The defeat of the Demon King was the end of the heroic journey. Himmel's funeral is the beginning of Frieren's emotional one. This is why calling Frieren emotionless completely misses the point. She is not empty. She is delayed. Frieren feels affection, loyalty, amusement, fear, and grief. The problem is that her emotions often arrive after the moment that could have changed something. She notices the meaning of an experience only when it has become a memory. She understands what a person gave her when that person is no longer standing there to hear it. Her immortality is not painful simply because everyone dies. The deeper pain comes from the fact that she keeps realizing what people meant after she has lost the chance to respond. And the series makes us experience this delay with her. Himmel appears constantly in flashbacks, but those memories are not random pieces of nostalgia. Each one changes because Frieren has changed. The past remains the same, her ability to read it becomes different. A gesture that once looked foolish becomes kind. A dramatic speech becomes a promise. And a statue that seemed like Himmel's vanity becomes evidence that he was thinking about a future he would never see. He understood something Frieren did not. Memory needs physical places to live. Himmel knew people would forget details, villages would change, witnesses would grow old. Frieren would continue walking long after his name became history, so he left behind stories, statues, and small acts of kindness, not simply because he wanted the world to praise him, but because he wanted the people he helped to remember that someone had once chosen to care, and perhaps he wanted Frieren to remember too. That is what makes his love so painful. Himmel rarely demands that Frieren understand him immediately. He does not force a confession into the space between them. 11th, he meets her at the speed she is capable of moving, even though that speed means he may never receive an answer. For a human being, that patience is almost heroic. Himmel knows his life is short. He knows Frieren may understand his feelings only after he is gone. Yet he still chooses to make their limited time meaningful. Frieren initially treats time like an unlimited resource. Himmel treats attention like a moral choice. That difference explains almost everything. Frieren can wait months for a flower to bloom. She can spend years searching for a spell that creates a field of flowers. She can train for decades and hide her mana for centuries. Against demons, this relationship with time makes her terrifying. Patience becomes a weapon. 11th enemy, planning for years, is still thinking too small when Frieren can plan across generations. But the same strength becomes a weakness in human relationships. You can delay a magical experiment for 20 years. You cannot delay telling someone they matter and assume they will still be there. You can return to a forest after a century. You cannot return to a human life after a century and expect the conversation to continue where it stopped. Frieren's tragedy is not that she has too little time. It is that abundance makes time feel cheap until another person's time runs out. This is also why her obsession with seemingly useless magic matters so much. A spell that creates flowers, removes rust, or makes grapes sour does not increase her combat power. And to a traditional fantasy hero, these spells look like distractions. To Frieren, they become pieces of people. At first, she may not fully understand why she wants these spells. Later, the pattern becomes clear. Every small spell is proof that somebody desired something specific. Someone wanted cleaner clothes. Someone wanted a field of flowers. Someone thought a ridiculous effect would make life more interesting. Magic records the small human wishes that history usually ignores. Frieren spent centuries collecting spells. After Himmel, she begins collecting meanings. Fern is essential to that change because Fern forces Frieren to live inside human time. Fern has birthdays, she gets older, she becomes impatient. 11th, she notices when Frieren sleeps too long, forgets an appointment, or treats a 6-month detour as if it were nothing to Frieren. 6 months can feel insignificant. To Fern, it is part of a childhood she will never get back. Their relationship quietly reverses the usual roles. Frieren is the ancient master with overwhelming magical knowledge, but Fern often behaves like the responsible adult. She wakes Frieren, manages money, protects the schedule, and reacts to the emotional details. Frieren overlooks. Yet Frieren gives Fern something equally important. She gives her continuity. Fern loses her parents and later loses Heiter, but her life does not end with those losses. Frieren carries Heiter's care forward, and by teaching Fern, traveling with her, and slowly learning how to pay attention, Frieren turns memory into responsibility. This is one of the most beautiful ideas in the series. Grief is not proven by how loudly you suffer, it is proven by what you choose to carry. Frieren carries Himmel in the way she accepts small quests. She carries Heiter in the way she protects Fern. She carries Flamme in the patience and discipline of her magic. The dead do not merely appear in flashbacks. They continue shaping decisions in the present. That is why the past in Frieren never feels dead. Memory is active. It changes the direction of the journey. Even Frieren's calm expression becomes more meaningful when we understand this. She rarely performs emotion in the way other characters expect. Her face can remain almost unchanged while an entire memory is moving beneath the surface. The series trusts quiet pauses, small looks, and ordinary landscapes because emotional truth does not always announce itself. She is learning that love is attention paid before it becomes regret. This is why her destination matters so much. Frieren travels north toward Uriel, a place where she may be able to speak with Himmel again. On the surface, this sounds like a quest to recover. One final conversation. Emotionally, however, the journey is teaching her how to have that conversation long before she arrives. Every person she meets gives her another piece of the language she lacked. Fern teaches her daily care. Stark shows how fear can exist beside courage. The people who request small acts of magic teach her that ordinary desires are not meaningless. Even the landscapes teach her to stop and notice what a shorter-lived person might never see twice. By the time Frieren reaches the end, the important change will not be whether Himmel can hear her. It will be whether she has finally learned to hear the living. That is the hidden brilliance of Frieren. Beyond Journey's End, it is a story about an immortal character that makes time feel more valuable, not less. It reminds us that a long life and a meaningful life are not the same thing. 11th Frieren has centuries of memories, but the moments that transform her are often painfully short. A sunrise with friends, a ring placed on her finger, a ridiculous pose beside a statue, a promise to watch meteors again. Himmel's life ends, but his attention continues changing her. He becomes proof that influence is not measured by how long a person remains alive. It is measured by what their kindness teaches other people to notice. So Frieren's real curse is not immortality. Immortality only gives the curse room to grow. Her real curse is believing that understanding can always happen later. Because later is safe when you are alone. Later is dangerous when you love someone mortal. Mortal lives cannot wait forever. Frieren cannot repair the years she missed with Himmel. She cannot return to the first journey with the awareness she has now, but she can refuse to repeat the same mistake. She can look at Fern Stark and the people they meet and choose to be present before they become another collection of beautiful regrets. That choice is her real character development, not becoming louder, not suddenly behaving like a human, not abandoning the ancient perspective that makes her who she is. She is learning to treat another person's brief life as something that cannot be postponed, and maybe that is why Frieren hurts so much. Most of us are not immortal, but we live as if we are. We delay the visit, we leave the message unanswered. We assume there will be another birthday, another journey, another meteor shower. And then one day, later arrives and it looks nothing like we imagined. Frieren's story asks a simple and frightening question. If someone you love became only a memory tomorrow, what would you suddenly wish you had noticed today? For Frieren, the answer was always Himmel. The rest of her journey is an attempt to make sure the answer is never everything again. If you enjoyed this analysis, subscribe for more anime psychology and tell me in the comments, do you think Frieren truly loved Himmel while he was alive, or did she only understand that love after he was gone?